Well, welcome to another edition of Win TV. I'm your host, Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. It's great to be back in this chair again, and I have to say, I so appreciate the capable reporters who filled this seat the last couple of weeks while I was away. And I am back now, and hopefully, those of you who are watching have also sort of put in place your summer plans. I kind of got away early, but looking forward to more trips, not necessarily all work related, you know what I mean? But, getting out there. So I hope you're going to do the same thing. We might want to do a show on how I spent my summer vacation. Remember when you were a kid? Well, some of us remember when we were kids. And after the summer break, you come back to school. And that was one of the first either spoken assignments we had or written assignments, how I spent my summer vacation. So I'd love to hear from you all. So we're going to talk about that, shall we? See if we can have a summer vacation show. Folks say Black folks don't travel, but you all know we do. And we find really interesting and exotic places to go to, including right in our own backyards. And I'm going to talk about that a little later too, because Washington Informer Charities does an annual African American Heritage Tour. And speaking of backyards, we're going, of all places, to Montgomery County to discover the Black history, the rich Black history in Montgomery County. So stay tuned for that, because we certainly love for you to join us on that tour, which will take place in the latter part of June. So I'll have details for you very soon. But like I said, I really appreciate the capable reporters who filled this seat. But even more exciting, you all know that last week we were in Annapolis for the Maryland, Delaware, DC Press Association luncheon and awards program and conference. And we are so proud of members of our team, our design team, our editor, our lifestyle writer, Brenda Seiler, and just the great work that we all do, but the honors that they received in first place, and in some cases second place, but first place that they won for the awards that we got there at MDDC. So congratulations, and we're hoping to get more great news, because we like to enter these contests. We don't work to win contests. We work to tell stories and to serve the community. But once the work is done and these contests are out there, I say, hey, let's go ahead and see if we can get recognition for the hard work that they do. And so it pays off. Speaking of paying off and hard work, Lordy, what is Sunday? If you don't remember, Sunday is Mother's Day. If you haven't gotten your cards, your flowers, if you haven't made your brunch, lunch, breakfast, dinner plans, I would suggest that you get on the ball, because Mother's Day is in 2 days, day after tomorrow. And while some mothers, there was a survey that was done by Word in Black that showed that the majority of mothers just want to be left alone on Mother's Day. And I kind of understand that myself. But it's their choice, right? It's their choice. And so if a mother chooses to want to be left alone, then you can deliver that as a Mother's Day present. If she chooses to hang out with friends and family, that's another way of celebrating. And if she wants to go out, you can do it that way. Or just a walk through the park, just spending time telling big mama, grandmama, godmother, GMAs, future mothers, whatever you happen to be. If you deserve well, we all deserve, but if you want to be celebrated on Mother's Day, let folks know what you want, so they're not out there scratching their heads trying to figure out how to make this day special for you. So at any rate, I wanted to show you this week. We didn't talk about the paper because we have published another edition of the Washington Informer. And I always like to show the issue. And we spent the whole front page this week focusing on mothers. We have the mother of the young man who's now 23 years old, who was actually a victim of gun violence at one of the National Zoo's family days, on Easter Monday. So that young man Melvin. Let me see if I got the name right. Okay, Poppy Bates, Pappy Bates. Yes. Well, we're just glad that he survived that gunshot to the head, and but his mom and his girlfriend and Tyrone Parker got together with the mother of the shooter. And actually the two moms have gotten together, and there are more stories like that. But Tyrone Parker of the Alliance of Concerned Men got these two mothers together, and the son of the perpetrator of the crime is now home. And I don't know if the two young men have met, but the mothers are very close, and so they both are doing their um, best to address the issue of gun violence. And so I think mothers might be a key to this. When people say we ought to do something, moms might have a big role to play in this, not only in the home, but also talking to each other and addressing the issue, not from what can others do for us, but what is it that we can do in our households and in our communities to address gun violence. So anyway, just a thought. And then we're going to have as one of our guests, a mom of six. She's got half dozen. And so she's going to be with us today. And we're also looking well, we have other guests, but she's going to be the only mom with us today. So in addition to that, I think we have a really great program. I do want to share, though. I mean, I showed you the paper, but you can get the Washington Informer if you haven't picked one up at your nearest newsstand. Make sure you go online at washingtoninformer.com. There's a digital edition there, and there's also, of course, all the stories. We certainly would like for you to sign up to receive our daily newsletter. There's a place where you can sign up for that. And also, follow us on social media. We'd love to have you as our follower, and we in turn may follow you on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. What else are we on? LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn. So wherever you go, we're there. And we want to hear from you about any stories that you think that we should be covering. Today, our first segment is sponsored by the Prince George's County Department of the Environment. We are not finished. We're talking about climate change, environmental justice, all of the issues that impact our community. So we're going to have the Prince George's Director of the Department of Environment, Andrea Crooms, to talk to us about what's happening in Prince George's County. We also are looking forward to talking to LaMonica Jones, the interim director for DC Hunger Solutions, who is really going to address the issues of what the community is facing now that the COVID-19 benefits have been eliminated. A lot of people, hungry people in the District of Columbia, and we don't talk about that enough. So we're looking forward to having LaMonica to talk to us about that. We also have joining us Michelle Roberts, an educator, businesswoman, and like I said, a mom of half a dozen. So James Wright did a story on LaMonica, but we want to chat with her and of course wish her a happy Mother's Day. And our reporter, Linda Velikazi, will host a conversation with Zelma Chamberlain, the National Women's Retreat coordinator for the Science of Spirituality International Meditation Center. We, as you all know, May is Mental Health Month, and Linda Way was the editor of a special issue inside the Washington Informer this week on mental health. And so we want to carry this conversation further and look for solutions. I mean, we have our moments when we're just not feeling the best, not only physically, but mentally. So hopefully we will get some tips from Linda Way's interview with Zelma Chamberlain to talk about how we can address some of those issues and to talk about a special event that's taking place next Friday evening with world-renowned spiritual leader and author, Saint Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj. Hope I got that right. Anyway, before we bring on our guests, let's watch our weekly news broadcast by Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. A Manhattan jury on Tuesday found former President Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll and awarded her $5 million in damages. More than a dozen women have accused Trump of sexual misconduct over the years, but this is the only allegation to be affirmed by a jury. In the civil case, the federal jury of 6 men and 3 women found that Ms. Carroll, at 79, a former magazine writer, had sufficiently proved that Trump sexually abused her nearly 30 years ago in a dressing room of the Bergdorf Goodman department store in Manhattan. The jury did not, however, find that he had raped her, which she had long claimed. In a later statement, Carroll commented saying, quote, "I filed this lawsuit against Donald Trump to clear my name and to get my life back. Today, the world finally knows the truth. This victory is not just for me, but for every woman who has suffered because she was not believed." Layoffs will be hitting 25% of employees across the Paramount Media Networks groups in the U.S. Tuesday, following months of internal deliberations about integration amid Showtime's rebranding into Paramount Plus. Additionally, MTV News, which was significantly affected by layoffs more than 5 years ago, will also be shutting down, along with other units. The affected Paramount-owned networks include Nick, MTV, Comedy Central, Paramount Network, CMT, Smithsonian, TV Land, Logo, and Pop TV. In a memo to the staff, the Paramount Media Network's president, Chris McCarthy, said that despite Paramount's, quote, "success in streaming, we continue to feel pressure from broader economic headwinds like many of our peers." The company Vast, a California-based startup and one of the newest entrants in the world of privatized spaceflight, plans to use a SpaceX rocket to launch what it hopes to be the world's first commercial space station and ferry passengers to and from the orbiting outpost. Vast will equip this Haven 1 space station with the necessary consumables, such as oxygen and other life-sustaining materials. Jed McCaleb, the founder and CEO of Vast, said in a statement that the company is, quote, "thrilled to embark on this journey of launching the world's first commercial space station, Haven 1, and its first crew, the Vast 1. They are aiming for a launch date as early as August 2025.
In Prince George's County, helping yourself, others, and the environment is easier than you might think. Simply recycle all acceptable materials and be sure to always flatten cardboard before recycling. But that's not all. That junk mail that you receive? Yup, it's junk, but it's also recyclable. Have any unused items lying around? Consider repurposing or donating those items to secondhand stores. Keep Prince George's County beautiful. It's in your hands. Learn more tips at mypgc.us/recycle.
Good afternoon, Andrea Crooms. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great.
Wonderful, wonderful. As I said earlier, I told our folks that you're the director of the Prince George's County Department of the Environment. And we're so honored that you all are hosting this segment, but also here to help us answer some of these questions that we have about how, we really want to address some of these recycling issues. And that was a good thing I just saw there, because I did that this morning when you talked about mail, and that it can be recycled because too much stuff goes in the trash. But, I just wanted you to tell me a little bit about your office and what you all do there.
Sure. So the Department of Environment is about 330 staff, and we cover a pretty broad variety of the services that we offer to residents in the county. So I'll talk a lot about trash today, but one of the big things we do is our Resource Recovery Division, where we really focus on reusing and recycling as much of the waste that's produced by residents and businesses in the county. We really don't think about it as trash. We think about it as a resource. It's something that we can reuse, something that we can fund county initiatives with, et cetera. But in addition to that, we are responsible for a lot of the beautification campaign. We're sort of the think tank between our illegal dumping and littering operations in the county. We have a sustainability division that contains our sustainable and renewable energy division, our natural resources division, and our climate action team, as well as folks who really address residential flooding issues. Because one of the big things that we're experiencing as a result of the changes in climate due to climate change is a lot more flooding and a lot more risk to homes. I mean, as everyone knows, our county is 64% African American. 1 in 5 people were born not in the United States. So it's really important that we keep the value in our homes so that we can invest in our own multi-generational wealth and maintain that multi-generational wealth. So a lot of what the county executive has talked about in our current budget is about future proofing, right? And so the agency is really focusing on that future proofing, on making sure that residents are able to maintain that wealth and, grow as a community, both economically and environmentally. And finally, we run also stormwater management, which is both dealing with flooding, but more dealing with all of the clean water issues, making sure that the water that comes off of our streets and our parking lots and our roofs, by the time that it gets into the Chesapeake Bay, has gone through natural infiltration processes so that we are protecting our crabs, right? I mean, we're Marylanders, we got to have our crabs. Finally, we also run animal services. And, one of the focuses that I really had is on changing animal services from command and control to really community oriented, thinking about how do we keep animal families together, or animal and human families, right? So many of us at this point think of our pets as a member of our family, but also about keeping people safe, right? So we need to make sure that our neighbors are being responsible with their pets. We don't have animals running around. We don't have animals, producing massive numbers of babies that we don't have anywhere to take care of. But we do run the animal shelter, which we are still running free adoptions for dog, cats, and miscellaneous animals. We've been really increasing those adoptions and trying to get more animals out into homes. So we have a pretty broad base of operations.
It sounds like it. It sounds there's a whole lot there, and it's a lot of quality of life issues, I think, that we're trying to address in our households, in our communities. And so for me to ask you kind of what are the top priorities, sounds like everything's a priority right now, but if you could list maybe 3 things that you think are major initiatives of your department in Prince George's County, what might they be?
Yeah, I think quality of life is the biggest one right now, right? This spring and summer, we are really trying to double down on our efforts around litter and illegal dumping and our efforts around resource recovery. So we are doing a campaign, which you saw the commercial for, around recycling, helping folks understand what they can recycle. Prince George's County has the highest recycling rates in the state, has for a really long time. And one of my passions is making sure.
Wait a minute, that's a good thing. Say that again. You said Prince George's
we
County
have the highest recycling rate, both residentially and commercially in the state, and we have now for about 15 years. And one of my personal priorities is getting recognition for us. I think that a lot of folks look at our county and look at really traditional environmentalism and don't see everything that we've done to be leaders. We have the most advanced waste infrastructure in the state and one of the most in the country. We've rolled out composting to already over 75,000 of our residents, but we will be rolling out home composting, curbside composting to all 185,000 households that we serve directly with trash services over the course of this year. So by Christmas of this year, everyone will be able to compost all of those family meal scraps from Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we have this huge organics recycling facility that's one of the first of its kind in the country. It's the largest in the state. It's the most advanced on the East Coast. And so we're really focusing on how do we think about our waste as resources? How do we see it as an opportunity to fund the best possible services for our residents? Our organics composting facility, for example, pays for itself because we're able to take in food scraps and yard waste and yard trim from our residents and from businesses across the county and produce a product called Leaf Grow Gold that is a soil amendment. We can then sell that out to landscapers and even to residents through the landscaping companies. And that makes it so that facility essentially pays for itself rather than having to write off of the property taxes and other ways that we fund the government. So we're always looking for those opportunities. We also have in our municipal recycling facility, which is in Capitol Heights, we have an optical sorter. It's one of the most advanced facilities in the country. And so we're able to separate everything that people put into their single stream, their single bin of recycling, and get the most money for it on the national market because we're able to separate it very well into commodities that then have value out in the market. And although we haven't gotten to the point yet where that's net neutral, which it was at one time, we're getting to that point by being able to advance those. And then by doing these education programs to get more folks committed to recycling, understanding how to recycle, what not to recycle, and how our program has changed since the beginning of COVID, right? And how the world of waste has changed.
Yeah, I want to jump in really quickly because there's a couple of things. One, there are a lot of people who know, for example, you have the composting facility, not the facility, but what you've given people to their households, right, in order to do that. I mean, how do you determine, or how can you tell whether people are actually doing it? I mean, are you going to be monitoring or tracking? Because you know where you've delivered these. What is it? A can or a bin, or what is it?
So yeah, people get both a pail for their kitchen and then a cart, a big green cart to go outside.
Okay. And so, I mean, how successful do you think? I mean, like in DC with the bag tax, right? People were up in arms, you got to pay 5 cents for this bag, and they're still using them. They're still, getting bags, plastic bags. It's been effective. The city's made a lot of money, but people just haven't changed their habits. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out, and then I also know that you all recently, I believe, some legislation passed now where you have to ask for plastic utensils. If you're at a carryout or a restaurant, you no longer automatic, place in the bag for you. So how do you get people on board? I know we've done this program, but how do you monitor to make sure that, you have the majority of the county residents participating?
So, I mean, the serviceware one is a little bit easier because we know who our targets of who's going to be handing out those items is, right? So we work with the Chamber of Commerce, we work with the Restaurant Association to make sure that we're providing training to the staff who are going to be in those facilities, and that we're providing materials, things like posters and things that they can put up to alert residents of what's going on. So that one is a little bit easier. We have a great example of DC next door that's been very successful in the rollout of their program. So, and a lot of folks, cross that invisible line between Prince George's and DC means that lots of folks have been to a takeout area in DC and experienced being asked, do you want a straw? Do you want a fork? Do you want a napkin? Like, what do you need to be able to, what do you want and what do you need to consume this? Are you going to do it at home so you don't need a utensil? All of those things. So that one's a little bit easier because we can focus on the provider. On the composting, fortunately, we have haulers who handle all of our different neighborhoods. So we can look on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis at how much of the material that's coming in is composted food scraps versus traditional yard trim. And so then we can see, okay, this neighborhood is doing a lot. Let's go talk to them and learn how they made that transition in their lives. Or this neighborhood isn't doing a lot. How can we share with them, the value of doing this and how to be a part of it? Composting, it's not an easy on-off switch, right? None of us really remember when we started. I mean, most of us don't remember anyway, when we started recycling, right? Recycling has been around for most of most people's lives at this point. But I'm sure that it was a transition back then too, right? Like for me, even, I'm a super greenie, but the transition to doing composting in my kitchen took me probably about a month really to get used to it and consistent about it, to figure out a way that I could do it that didn't feel gross, right? That felt like I could do it in an efficient way, that it was part of my cooking, it was part of my cleaning out the fridge. So it is a transition in folks' lives. And so we're trying to provide as many tools and resources as possible for folks to choose to make that transition. If they don't choose to, they've got the cart for when they do choose to, and they've got the cart to keep their yard trim off the ground, right? They don't have to put it in the paper bag. So that's one thing that we're reducing. But we hope that they even if they start small with a pumpkin or some, orange peels or the rind off a watermelon or the smaller things or a picnic, right, on Sunday afternoon. So I think folks will get there, but we're trying to provide resources and tools and let folks move along to that at their own rate, at their own pace.
And those resources and tools, Andre, as we bring this to a close, but I mean, what is the overall message that I think we all understand climate change and that it's affecting our lives? Sometimes we don't really know how, unless it's the weather or something we see. But in Prince George's County, besides the obvious, right, air pollution, flooding, just trash on the streets, what does participating in some of the efforts that your department is responsible for, what does it mean for the quality of life for Prince George's County? of
I mean,
Prince
what
George?
it means to me more than anything else is that we're creating the community that our children are going to want to come back and live in, right? That is what we're doing here. I mean, we're coming into Mother's Day. We're creating the world that we want them to live in. And so we're being responsible with the choices that we make so that the next generation has something even better to look forward to. And they have a reason to stay here, right? They have a reason to help this community thrive, help this community be even better than it is now. And so by making these choices, these environmentally sustainable choices, we're building the future that we all want to have for the people that we, love the most and will carry on the future of our county. So that's why we do it.
That's a good mic drop right there. But I want you before we go, and I think Sherry can put it up. If people want more information about, just all of the recycling efforts in Prince George's County, she's putting up the contact information. Is there anything else you want to share with us about that?
No, I mean, I do encourage folks to bop around our website. We're trying to make it better and more, useful for folks, but there's lots of tools and different ideas there about how to make their own lives more sustainable and how to be part of it and proud of it is one of the things my county executive loves to say. And so how to be part of the solution together so that we can build that world that we want for our kids and for the next generation in general.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Andrea Crooms, for being with us today. And of course, the door is open for you to come back anytime, particularly since it looks like, this is not the end of things that we can do that you all will come up with to help us to improve that quality of life. So we want to continue this conversation. So thank you so very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, you too. Enjoy the weekend. We're going to move now to LaMonica Jones, the interim director of DC Hunger Solutions. LaMonica, welcome to WIN TV.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I mean, it's good to talk because we're talking solutions from your standpoint about a problem that's growing. And people, I don't think, really understand the depth of the problem, particularly in a place like Washington, D.C. or the surrounding areas. So tell us about DC Hunger Solutions. And if you can, in that description, kind of outline where we are right now with regards to people who are neighbors, who are hungry.
Absolutely. So DC Hunger Solutions, we are an anti-hunger advocacy organization where we focus on ending hunger in the nation's capital. So we don't focus on a particular age group or a particular demographic. If you are an individual and you reside in the district and you are experiencing hunger, we advocate on your behalf. And we do that primarily through maximizing participation in our federal nutrition programs. So SNAP, WIC, our school meals. If you have a child in childcare, that would be the Child and Adult Food Care Program. Over the summer, we have the Summer Food Service Program. Locally, most may be familiar with it as the DC Youth Meals Program, as well as other outlets. But we also focus on food access in the district overall. So we release several reports throughout the year. One of the most recent reports that we have published is the DC School Breakfast Scorecard. And that assesses the performance of school breakfast across our DC public schools and DC public charter school students. And we also have a grocery store report. And so that grocery store report assesses the prevalence and the disparities of grocery store access here in the districts. And so as many people know, Ward 7 and 8 have experienced and continue to experience disinvestment when it comes to grocery store access. And so that report talks about the problems or the challenges when it comes to grocery store access, but also amplifies the solutions that currently are going on to address those challenges. And so we address hunger from various different aspects. We don't just uplift the problems or the challenges when it comes to hunger in the district, but we also recommend solutions and uplift those solutions and implement them, work with our community partners, with our coalition partners on amplifying those solutions on how we can ultimately eradicate hunger and poverty in the district.
We have heard and we know now that yesterday was the end of the COVID emergency benefits. It's basically meaning SNAP. The maybe it's the amount. Can you explain to me what that means when you say when we hear the end of the COVID emergency benefits, and how does that affect households that are receiving SNAP?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know yesterday was the ending of the public health emergency. So all of the COVID flexibilities and waivers have officially expired as of yesterday. But prior to yesterday's ending of the public health emergency, we had the ending of our SNAP emergency allotments. And so our last emergency allotments were distributed in February. And so what that meant, particularly here in the district, so we have on average over 140,000 district residents that are participating in SNAP. The SNAP emergency allotments were distributed to over 90,000 district residents. And so when those emergency allotments ended, those 90,000 district residents experienced a tremendous drop in the amount of benefits. There were some that went from $283 down to $30 a month in SNAP benefits, which is a dramatic decrease that they had been receiving through the pandemic. And so that equates to here in the district about $14 million a month in benefits that were lost when those SNAP emergency allotments ended. And so that's a historic amount that a lot of residents are feeling the results of that. And it pushes into a hunger cliff that we are facing now, that we are here now, that we didn't anticipate to come a lot sooner when it did, but it's here now. Let me,
if I can ask you, interrupt you. I'm sorry, just really quickly, because so you're comparing what, folks got during the emergency to what they're getting now. Compare for me what they're getting now to what they got prior to the emergency benefits. Is it less than or the same? Where are we?
So pre-COVID, federal SNAP averaged about $15 or $16 a month in maximum benefits. And so in the midst of COVID, due to cost of living adjustments, inflation, those minimum benefits were increased at the federal amount to $23. Several years ago, I believe back in 2009, 2010, DC government realized that the minimum benefit was not enough for an individual to survive on. And so DC has taken precedence when it comes to enacting a local SNAP expansion, a local benefit amount. So even though the federal minimum starts off at $15 or $16 pre-COVID, and now it sits at $23, excuse me, DC has a minimum amount of $30, where most states across the nation are still at that $15, $16, or maybe $23 amount. DC has some local funding in place that increases our benefits to, excuse me, a minimum of $30 per month. And so that local level amount has still much less than what SNAP participants were receiving due to the SNAP emergency allotments, but still more than what other states are providing when you total the federal maximum and then any local support overall.
But I don't know as much about SNAP as maybe I should, and probably other folks don't either. But $30 a month? What
Not
can
a
you
lot.
do with that? That's a loaf of bread and a carton of milk and 2 apples. I mean, really?
Not a lot. That's not a lot. There are many of us that could spend $30 probably in a week. And that's what we were able to do through studies. We were able to determine that our SNAP benefits, district resident SNAP benefits, were not enough. They only lasted about on average 2 weeks. And so we have the minimum benefit amount, which also encouraged another piece of local level legislation, which is give SNAP a raise. And so DC Council passed that legislation the end of 2022. And it's because they acknowledged that the $30 minimum, that although it was great at the time, it's still not enough because there's other factors in play now when it comes to making sure that district residents that are participating in SNAP, that they have enough in order to purchase basic necessities, food.
It's not enough. It really isn't. And we all know when we go into grocery stores and we've seen the increase cost of basics, and over the years, actually, just how the price of food has gone up. So, I mean, what is a solution that you all are looking at? Because it's definitely not, I mean, even if you went to $50 a month, that's still not enough money. $100 really is not enough money. Is that per person, per household? How does that work?
So it's based on your household income. So whether you're a household of one or whether you are a family, there's just several factors in play. So it's not just a set amount for everyone. It takes
Okay.
into account the dynamics of your household count. So there's several factors in play that would determine what that minimum or that maximum dollar amount that you would receive it would be.
Well, I can see why people are hungry.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
again, going back, and you might end up repeating yourself, but what are some of those solutions
So
that you all are looking at?
So currently, one of the things that we have in place, I'll backtrack a little bit. When the SNAP emergency allotments ended, one of the things that was put in place was permanent summer EBT. And our permanent summer EBT, which will start next summer, will support children under the age of 18 while school is out. And so that'll be some permanent funding that will support those children that reside in SNAP eligible households. So that's one of the first things that we are very encouraged about, because we know that if children don't have enough to eat, they're unable to focus in school. It affects behavior, it affects learning outcome, and we don't want anything to affect their matriculation through school. So that's
Right.
one thing. Here at the local level, what we're advocating for currently is for funding for Give SNAP a Raise. And so I have spent a lot of time over the past 2 weeks, even 3 weeks since the mayor has released the budget for FY24, advocating for funding for Give SNAP a Raise. And so we are currently in those conversations as committee markups have ended with DC Council. We are encouraging that funding will be allocated in the final budget. And what Give SNAP a Raise will do is that it will add an additional 10% on top of a individual or family's maximum, their maximum federal benefit amount. So you could, for an individual, their benefits could go up to $293 or $283. For a family of four, their benefits could jump up to $900, over $900 in SNAP benefits. And so that would be the local piece and coupled with the federal amount that we receive. So we're currently having conversations, making sure that DC Council is aware, partnering with our coalitions, with our district residents that participate in SNAP, with other advocates as well, to make sure that funding is allocated in this budget period for Give SNAP a Raise.
Yeah, I'm glad that you all are, on that and speaking out. And I'm sure you have residents who are working with you to support what you all are doing. But it's a challenge. And, if we look at, I mean, even when we talk about crime statistics, right, they're related to hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I guess you all talk about that as well, correct?
Absolutely. I say all the time, we can't silo ourselves in food. We can't just talk about food. We have to talk about those other social determinants of health, so to speak, and those other players that are connected to food. So I always say that we have to address food safety and shelter. Those are our three basic needs before we begin to talk about anything else. But as we're in conversation about those three items, we have to talk about access to transportation so that individuals can get to those food resources, or how is it that we're going to bring those food resources to individuals? DC has the highest rate of older adult hunger across the nation, right at 13%. Many of our older adults are experiencing transportation or mobility issues. We can't expect them to travel across the district to several different grocery stores. How is it that we can bring those resources to the district? High quality childcare, affordable housing. We work a lot with Fair Budget Coalition and the push for affordable housing, and making sure that district residents, DC Council members, everyone else is aware of just how important the housing issue is. And many of those that are receiving housing benefits are also participating in SNAP and WIC and other programs as well. So focusing on not just siloing ourselves in food, but those other issues that are connected to food, as well as every demographic. So not just our older adults, but also our immigrant families, maybe our veterans, our returning citizens, making sure that those that are eligible for SNAP, that they are informed, that they have completed their application for SNAP, that we're here. And we sit in a place at DC Hunger Solutions where we can help SNAP residents with the application process, with the mid-certification process, with the recertification process. So we want to make sure that in addition to SNAP itself and food itself, that we are addressing all those other wraparound supports that are important for individuals.
Well, LaMonica Jones, I am so happy that you are here with us today to share this information. Before we close, is there anything that, say, everyday Washington, D.C. residents could do that really to support or to help either the work that you all do or just looking out for our neighbors? What kind of solutions do you have for just, the person next door?
Yeah, on a basic level, just check on your neighbors. COVID has increased our sensitivity that we have neighbors that are in need. Hunger does not have a face. Hunger does not have a race. You can't look at someone and tell whether or not they've had food or whether they've had enough food. So just check on one another, asking basic questions. Is there anything that I can do for you? Is there any type of support that they may need? And then visit our website, DC Hunger Solution, dchunger.org, and that will provide a myriad of resources that everyday residents can utilize to help support one another if they have questions on where do I find food, if they are a SNAP participant, if they are a WIC participant, if they have a child that is under the age of 18, a school-age child, and they're looking for a summer meal site or a DC meal site. You can visit our website and we have all of that information there. And of course, following us on Instagram and on TikTok and on Twitter.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much for being with us today and sharing this information. And we will be looking to see how the council and the mayor weigh out on, the support that the DC Hunger Solutions needs, because it's a citywide problem. It's all of our problem. So we want to thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Have a good one. Speaking of hungry, now this is probably not the best segue, but our next guest, Michelle Roberts, who is a businesswoman and educator, but in this case, a mother of 6 children, ones and kids are forever hungry, right? Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, growing, especially the boys.
Yeah, when they get hungry, they say, "Mom, what we got to eat? Mom, is there what you cooking? Mom, where's the food?
Snacking in between time."
Exactly. Well, congratulations. I read your story that James Wright did in the Washington Informer. You are my shero, to have raised your children. They're doing very well from what I've read, and doing it as a single mom, and also getting your education and starting a business. People always ask, how did you do it?
So let me start off by saying, as I told James when he called me on Sunday, listen, it wasn't easy. It was times that I wanted to give up, but I kept pushing forward because I knew I had those little ones that was looking up to me. Started college, as the article said, with a 1-month-old and finished with a 1-month-old receiving my bachelor's degree. So as you know, school forms, when you write, you'd be like, okay, 2022, they'll be how old? So the last of the first set of stair steps graduated June of last year. So I was like, okay, would have been done. So they teased me. They said, "Oh, you started all over again, mommy." Doing homework with them was, one of the biggest things, that we did together. History, I will say, with the second set of stair steps I have, I don't understand the math that they're sending home or what they're teaching. So I have to rely on my junior in college, who's a math econ major, to jump in to assist, his younger siblings with some of the math work that he does. But I pushed through, perseverance, of course, prayer. 5 of my children all have the same dad, and then the 6-year-old has her own dad. So he was able to, when he came into their lives, my 9-year-old was 2 years old. And so he kind of stepped up and, played the father figure. But I had a strong family support. My mom, my dad, and grandparents truly helped me out.
What we talked about, and we've talked a lot about, this pandemic, and school was out. You probably were at home. All 6 of you, all 7 of you all, maybe 8, all of you all were in the house together. How did you manage that? How did they manage? How did you manage
I had
during that period?
The junior in college was a senior in high school. I was Franti. I was supposed to get ready to start teaching my first semester as an adjunct at UDC in the leasing profession. That got put on hold. Just working at the time, I was working, with the agency that dealt with public housing. So just a crisis. The older kids were on their own, but the 6-year-old was 3. So she just got into school. So I used to tell her teacher, what am I supposed to have her do? You're asking me to have a 3-year-old to sit in front of a computer. Are you crazy? The attention span was gone. Right. Let alone the 5 to 6-year-old, what he needed to do. So it was kind of a big adjustment. I had almost a sophomore in high school. And it was an adjustment for her as well. The social, kind of impact. During that COVID time frame, with schooling and everything being shut down, I was actually hit by COVID really hard, and it really affected, my children, the upkeep. My son was getting ready to go off to college. This is before, the vaccines and things like that. So, I watched all of them as they progressed on and moved on during that time period, especially with me, being ill. They all pulled together. I think my sons were a little bit more stronger than the girls. But we pushed through.
Wonderful. So tell me what your household is like. I mean, in raising your kids. Unfortunately, you had, like 2 sets of 3 at different times. So that's a little bit different. But the younger set, the older set, you're kind of walking in the dark, right? Because you're trying to raise kids that you've never raised before. And the younger set, you think you got it, but they're their own people. So you can't really compare them, right?
A different breed.
Yeah. So how did they help you in managing your household?
So the older set, especially the boys, were a little bit more hands-on. All of them played a part in their younger siblings' lives. Sometimes the girls would say, oh, okay, I'm going to do the hair. So out of the older set, you have 2 that's cookers, and then 2 that will say, you know what, I'll rather do this than do that. So I'm going to cook food tonight. I'll help with homework, or I'll do baths and then make sure everything else is taken care of. They learn how to wash. They were always eager in watching things that I did, especially my girls, my boys. Both, one will cook and the other one will not cook. They will sit back and wait. So it's the oldest son and the middle girl that are the cookers. So the oldest daughter and the middle son would say, hey, you know what? You 2 need to cook, and then we'll wash the dishes. That's what we'll do to help out. But I mean, they helped, taking them to the playground, helping with homework. That always played a big key point. My kids will always see, when I come in, like, oh, Ma, how did today go? Or we always start off like, hey, Ma, how your day going, through a text. If it's not a text, me calling and saying, hey, what's going on? How did your day go? And then they say, oh, you didn't have a good day. All right, go ahead. Or if I had a headache, okay, Ma, don't worry about it. We got everything. We got it taken care of. So it was different with them. We traveled a lot too with the older set. My 21-year-old played AAU basketball. So we were always on the go. It slowed down when I had the 9-year-old. And it's different. So them being able to say, oh, you know what, I'll take him to his game, or I'll pick him up, or Mom, go ahead and get you some rest. But they know, like, okay, I'm not going to miss his game. I didn't miss any of your games. So what makes you think I'm going to miss his game?
Right.
So it's kind of hard sometimes too for me to adjust with them wanting to jump in and say, hey, Mom, I'm going to do it because I'm typically used to doing it. So as my parents will say, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. Get some rest.
Well, you know, you got a lot of folks in the comments that are just really congratulating you and wishing you a happy Mother's Day and saying how amazing of a mom you are. And so my last two questions. One is, you know, if you were to give advice to a new mom, right? What would you tell them? Someone that's about to go down that road of motherhood.
Stay true to yourself. Know that the child that's growing inside of you is going to really rely on you. They're watching you. Keep your head up. Be optimistic. Be very open-minded, and hold yourself accountable because you got it.
And so what are they going to do for you for Mother's Day?
I'm not sure. They always ask me what I want. One is still away in college. He won't be home until after next week. So I'm not sure what they have planned. I typically say I don't want to go anywhere, but then it ends up being something else. So they may get together to cook or shower me with gifts. So I'm not sure what they have planned yet. But the group texts have been going off.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to say congratulations to you. Congratulations to the college graduates, the high school graduates, the elementary and middle school graduates, and even the preschool graduates that you have in your house. I'm sure you're having graduations almost every year.
Well, last year I had two. I had a high school and a kindergarten. One year I had a high school and a junior high school in 18. So I had one graduating from high school and one graduating from kindergarten. So it did pan out to be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
So we shall see how it goes. I want to thank you guys for having me on. And I got a pleasure to hear you speak twice. Last year at DC Small Business Week. And this year we sat right across from each other at the luncheon. And we actually talked in the same garage.
I do remember now. Okay, all right, yeah.
So it's a pleasure to being able to be on your show.
Right, Michelle. Thank you so much for reminding me of that, because I remember you got to your car before I got to mine.
Yes.
So. Like, how did she get down here so fast? But anyway, it's congratulations to you again, and thanks for being with us. James says it's been a pleasure. It was a pleasure speaking with you. He did a great story, I thought. And I hope folks will go to the Washington Informer and read more about Michelle Roberts. And not only, you know, the fact that you're a mom, but you're a businesswoman and, you know, just somebody we are looking up to, especially on Mother's Day. So congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again.
All righty. Talk to you soon. So, gosh, happy Mother's Day, everybody. My mom is here, Vera Abbott. She's putting little notes out there too. So happy Mother's Day to you and everybody else that's watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're going to now switch over to Lindy Villacazzi, who is our health writer. Lindy, how are you?
I'm well. Hi, Denise. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I am so happy to turn this show over to you right now because I know you have a person that I want to hear from, Zelma Chamberlain. So yes. Let's go with it.
Thank you so much. So yes, hello everyone. Happy Friday. And today we are speaking with Ms. Zelma Chamberlain, as May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And Mental Health Month gives us an opportunity to just look at a host of different topics, challenges, but also beneficial methods that help us balance our mental and emotional well-being. And one of those is my favorite, being meditation, or the breathing of mindfulness. So in the spirit of May, we're sitting down with Ms. Zelma Chamberlain, who is a retired educator and currently the National Women's Retreat Coordinator for the Science of Spirituality International Meditation Center. Welcome, Zelma.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. So I understand that the organization is having an event next week, and this will be in Arlington, Virginia, which will be an open, free talk with spiritual leader Saint Rajinder Singh Maharaj. I'm sorry, did I pronounce it correctly?
Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj.
Maharaj, thank you so much. And I know that he will be visiting us next Friday. So can you tell us just a little bit about the mission of the Meditation Center, the mission and the work that you all do, and what people can expect from the event next week?
Okay. This organization, Science of Spirituality, has over 3,000 meditation centers around the world. I retired and moved to Chicagoland, Illinois, where our international meditation center is. As you know, we have gone through a tremendously difficult and challenging time with the pandemic. And meditation, we have found, and I have certainly found, has been the core of my knowing myself and finding an inner peace and a way of life that brings about peace for me. We do believe in Science of Spirituality that peace begins with us. Many times, we can always talk about what someone else should do, but when we turn around and look at the self and really introspect who we are, then we can move forward in meditation, using meditation as a tool to bring about a peacefulness within ourselves. And that peace, we believe, can heal the world. So on May the 19th, Sant Rajinder Singh will be in Arlington, Virginia. And this is an activity and an event where you can learn an in-depth, firsthand experience of meditation. It's really a unique opportunity to get the experience of meditation direct from the teacher. This teacher is world-renowned. I always say he is an authority on meditation. He's mastered his own inner spiritual journey and really offers a firsthand experience of meditation. So we will be in Arlington, Virginia, on the 19th of May, Friday at 6 p.m. This event is free. It's totally open to the public. One of the questions we get a lot of times is that people will say, oh, I'm Baptist, I'm Catholic, whatever their religious practice or tradition is. This meditation practice is really an ancillary practice. It's something you can do in addition to whatever your spiritual beliefs. So it's an opportunity for people of all kinds to come together and really focus on that which sits within them and bring forth that light and that peace and that tranquility.
I love that. I love that. And I know that in a lot of his teachings, he seems to speak about just that intersection of how your intentional breath work can help you reach into your inner spiritual realm. So can you kind of speak about that a little bit too? How does intentional breath work allow us to become more aware of our spiritual being and just bring us in closer alignment with ourselves?
This practice looks at focusing at the third or single eye and focusing out in front of you. There is no breath work for this particular practice. I know that many meditation practices use the breath. Okay. We believe in shutting down all of the five senses and focusing our attention at the third or single eye and really shooting it out. You're using a calming word, and that can be a calming word of your choice. The word love, the word joy. Okay. And you're repeating that silently with the tongue of thought, we say. And you just focus your attention. In the beginning, there may be darkness, but as you quiet yourself and focus your attention in that direction, light begins to appear. And that light may look different for you than it does for me. It's not based on a universal light. It's based on, we all come from different spiritual traditions. I'm not talking about religious traditions, I'm talking about spiritual traditions. And so in your past life, you may have meditated a lot. In my past life, maybe not. So it may take me a little bit longer to get my attention focused there, but that attention, that can happen. And the more we develop this particular practice, the more the experience comes for you. So this is really that opportunity. So I think that's what I should say.
No, wonderful. Understood. This is before COVID. We could still, do some things in person. I used to frequent an open meditation class in Meridian Hill Park here in DC. And one of the things that was amazing to me was the instructor explaining how something that got him into meditation was helping him balance his mental state, but he also had been suffering from kidney issues. So I found that amazing how the power of the breath and certain techniques can help, relieve you of certain physical health ailments. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your journey and what pushed you into meditation and making this a consistent practice in your life. And what are some of the benefits that you've seen, mentally and maybe even physically along your journey?
Absolutely. I started my journey in 1983. So this is my 40th year.
Okay.
I've never been a person who was a joiner, but this really attracted my attention. And I realized that we were like-minded. The people that I was practicing with, we had a common goal. And so we started this practice out together. 40 years later, I still sit in this practice and enjoy it even more now than I did when I first started out. It has brought a peace to me personally. I had knee replacements about 11 years ago in DC. I'm a native Washingtonian who has now moved on. My recovery, according to my orthopedic, I was the poster child for knee replacement. And I attribute that totally to meditation, because each time I went through the rehabilitation and even the surgery itself, I centered myself and I asked that God power that sits within me to manifest itself and heal me as it saw fit. So it's really about surrender. For me, it was about surrender. And I moved through that journey very, very easily. I can tell you right now that if anyone were to take my blood pressure, another thing that many in the African American community work with, my blood pressure is usually always very, very low, or within the standards of low to regular blood pressure, the 120s. If I'm moving in the 130s, something is really going on. But here again, I sit and focus myself daily. It's part of my morning routine. I enjoy meditating in the morning when the earth is quiet. So It's a good way to start my day. Sandra Jinder Singh has recently written a book called Detox the Mind. And I could not believe the timeliness of this particular book, because it talks about alleviating the stresses and strains that we are confronted with in our daily routines. And by going within, it's a real easy with lessons. From a teacher point of view, I really find this book to be a very easy read, because there's theory and then there's always an activity at the end of the chapter, so you can practice kind of what you've learned. And I find that to be really, really rewarding for someone who's just starting out. It's an excellent method to begin to let go of some of the stress, the strain, everybody's always pushing now. Push, 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 push. One anxiety after the other. So this is an excellent way to step back from the world and let it, the mundane, all of that muckety muck that's going on out there, let it go by for a little bit and just focus on you and that which sits within you, and allow that peace to come through.
Absolutely. Oh, that's very beautifully said. And I think, especially in cities and metropolitan areas, we just have so much going on around us, so much noise, just so many different factors that that would be an excellent way for people to kind of step away from it all and find that balance. For people who kind of have issues with balancing their anxiety, right? They're always on the run, and they think that they may be a little bit too jittery to kind of slow their mind down. Do you have any just beginners tips and what people can do and how people can kind of get themselves started into meditating consistently?
I have a really, really, and it's really a good example for Mother's Day. For all the mothers and the people out there who, like you say, are so jittery. When we teach a baby to eat solid food, we don't sit a 5-course meal in front of that baby. We start off with a half teaspoon. We can do the same thing with meditation. Don't start off like me with hours of meditation. Start off with 2 or 3 minutes. So you sit and center yourself for 2 minutes. Focus on you for 2 minutes and see how you live that 2 minutes. The sweetness that you experience during that 2 minutes of meditation, it rolls over into your life. So now you're moving through the world with intention, but a different intention. So that's one of the first things that I would do, is start off small. Say, today I'm going to meditate for 3 minutes. So you're going to find a quiet space. You're going to repeat a calming word. You're going to focus your attention 8 to 10 inches in front of you and just repeat your calming word. Next week, you might want to add 5 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes to your initial 5 minutes. Now you're up to 10 minutes. And you want to keep doing that as you move through your life. Watch your world, as the young people say. You'll understand that you're moving at a different pace now from that rat race that's out there. You're not part of it. You're moving with a different intention. Once you do that, then you just keep adding minutes on. Eventually, you'll get to a half an hour. Now the sweetness comes, because you'll be attracted to certain people. Certain people will just walk up to you and they'll say, "Oh my, have you changed your hair? Have you lost weight?" It's not that. It's the meditation.
Or just become you.
Yes, what you're becoming. That's what you're going to see. And it's very interesting to watch the world from that perspective. People that you may have known for years, they move away from you. All of a sudden, they'll find a reason that they don't like you anymore. That's okay. That's as I read on one of these social media, everything has an expiration date, and maybe expiration date with that person. So just keep moving. But it's really, really interesting to watch your world when you start meditating.
I really wish we could continue this conversation, Lindy and Ms. Chamberlain. This is good. We have reached our expiration time.
Well, thank you, Denise, and thank you, Ms. Chamberlain, for joining us.
Yes, we'll look forward to seeing you on the 19th at 6.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Linda Way. I mentioned earlier Well, you're gone. Oh, no, you're back. Back. Wonderful. About the mental health issue in this issue of the Washington Informer, your focus as a health writer on mental health. And so I'm sure you'll be bringing other, experts and individuals that can talk to us about how we can get through these stressful times. So thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again.
Okay. See you soon. So it brings us, boy, we're really way over, but that's okay. Sometimes good things, just take a little bit longer. But we're glad you were able to join us, and hopefully we're able to stay with us for a little while. Again, for those of you all who are moms, or mom likes, I wish you all a happy Mother's Day, and have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you next Friday, same time here on WEN TV.
A 2017 Internal Veteran Affairs report shows Black veterans were more often denied benefits for PTSD than their white counterparts. The analysis crunched claims data from fiscal years of 2011 through 2016 and showed Black veterans seeking disability benefits for PTSD were denied 57% of the time as compared to the 43% of white veterans. The report emerged as part of an open records lawsuit filed by an advocacy group for Black veterans. The analysis is significant because research has shown that minority vets have a higher rate of PTSD than non-minority vets. Black Vietnam veterans were more likely to have higher rates of PTSD, in part because they were more likely to be in combat than their white counterparts. Researchers are seeing if applying machine learning models, a type of artificial intelligence, to data collected passively from wearable devices can identify a patient's degree of resilience and well-being. The findings, reported in the May 2nd issue of JAMIA Open, support wearable devices such as the Apple Watch as a way to monitor and assess psychological states remotely without requiring the completion of mental health questionnaires. The paper points out that resilience, or an individual's ability to overcome difficulty, is an important stress mitigator, reduces morbidity, and improves chronic disease management. Robert P. Hurton, the clinical director of the Hassell-Plattner Institute for Digital Health, said, quote, "Wearables provide a means to continually collect information about an individual's physical state. Our results provide insight into the feasibility of assessing psychological characteristics from this passively collected data."